This is Ralph K. Ginorio with Keep Bright, 27th July 2022. Say no to the Belt and Road Initiative in Hayden, Idaho. There is a plan afoot to develop land for storage units at the Coeur d'Alene Airport Pappy Boyington Field in Hayden, Idaho. On the surface, this seems like a healthy development for our business climate and infrastructure. However, this proposal has elements which seem fraught with peril. Indications are that the Chinese Communist Party, through their captive banking system, may be instrumental in financing this venture. The Chinese Communist Party is funding infrastructure projects globally through their Belt and Road Initiative. For the past decade, port facilities, railroads, highways, and airports have been built and improved around the world through a partnership between local leaders and Chinese officials. The Chinese government celebrates this as a way of bringing together a fractured planet, connected by one belt and one road. Projects have been built in, among other places, Cambodia, Singapore, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Djibouti, Kenya, Mongolia, Russia, Iran, Turkey, Peru, Panama, and several European and Pacific nations. These projects all have strategic benefit to China's new imperial ambitions. Port facilities include provisions for Chinese naval and air bases. Railroads are constructed in sweetheart deals with Chinese contractors at the expense of local labor. Leases from 50 to 99 years are negotiated, granting China decisive control over the new facilities if the loans are defaulted upon. These loans are predatory in the sense that they benefit corrupt local elites who personally profit from selling out their native interests to benefit China. They are structured to be unpayable. The president of the Solomon Islands, an area liberated at great cost from Japanese imperialism back in World War II, has recently negotiated deals that grant China special privileges over native residents. The president is becoming wealthy by shackling the Solomon Islands to a new Chinese version of the old 19th century European empires. The use of predatory infrastructure loans to expand China's reach has been labeled debt trap diplomacy. Already, much of sub-Saharan Africa, Central Asia, and Southeast Asia have fallen deeply into irredeemable debt to China. Malaysia and Bolivia and Sierra Leone in West Africa are but a few nations who have at great cost tried to break free of China's debt trap. As with individuals, debt vampirically drains a nation of its future vitality. The profits of a nation's enterprise go to the debt holder rather than to building towards a better future. In the end, unpayable debt reduces independent countries to the status of either colonies or failed states. The United States is not proof against the predatory investment strategies of today's Chinese Communist Party. Unlike the Soviets in the Cold War, Chinese communist agents have fully engaged with our civilian society. Hollywood, corporate America, and even our schools and universities are connected to China through webs of investment and debt. For example, the Confucius Institute has successfully transmitted Chinese communist propaganda to countless American educators, teaching them their ideologically sanitized version of history and culture. Big tech and the entertainment industry are so terrified of being frozen out of Chinese markets that they self-censor anything that Beijing might find objectionable. This is because today's Chinese Communist Party is, in economic terms, communist in name only. They share the Soviet Union's totalitarianism, improving on their surveillance state with cutting-edge technology provided by Silicon Valley. However, Chinese economic system since the death of Mao in the mid-1970s is based not on Marxism-Leninism, but rather on Hitler's cartel capitalism and Mussolini's corporative state. China's social services are nothing like European welfare states' cradle-to-grave network of entitlements. Chinese citizens have no welfare safety net. There is no egalitarian paradise awaiting in China, dedicated to some Marxian fantasy of the brotherhood of man. Instead, anyone with the right connections can become wealthy if, and only if, they collaborate with embedded Chinese Communist Party officials in thought, word, and deed. Every enterprise and organization in the People's Republic of China has Communist Party officials involved at every level of decision-making. No choice is made merely for profit or to benefit private interests. The party leadership's interests trump all other priorities. Post-Mao Chinese leaders have built a system optimized to bring the most power to the leaders of China's Communist Party, power at all costs, power of all types, power without limits. They have combined economic flexibility with rigid political control, and we Americans made it all possible. From the Carter years, American politicians and businessmen have been eager to invest in China in hopes that this would make them more like us, make China more like the United States. Xi Jinping's presidency has proven this hope to be futile. In fact, with our cancel culture, censorship, and credulity to government intervention in our private lives, it's arguable that we have become more like them. China is not like anywhere else on Earth, except possibly North Korea. Their leadership is consumed with an obsession not to fall like the Soviet Union. Added to this existential paranoia is a nationalist intent to avenge the so-called century of shame from between the 1842 Opium War and the 1949 communist takeover. They have bullied every neighbor, claim the trade artery of the South China Sea, and openly threatened to start a world war with the United States by attacking our ally, the independent nation of Taiwan. The Chinese Communist Party funds and protects Putin's Russia, Khamenei's Iran, Assad's Syria, Maduro's Venezuela, and every other tin pot tyranny around the world. They bankrolled the Islamic fascists in the war on terror and are trying to lock all possible natural resources around the world under their control. If this weren't sufficient cause for alarm, today's China is engaged in a genocide in Xinjiang and Tibet that is as implacable as Hitler's Holocaust and as brutal as Pol Pot's killing fields. Unlike the ethnic cleansing of the former Yugoslavia in the 1990s, or the Hutu massacre of the Tutsis in Rwanda during the same decade, or any other past genocide, this slaughter is ongoing right now and shows no sign of ending. This regime is enslaving the formerly free population of Hong Kong in violation of their treaty with the British. Today's Chinese leadership is privately inspired by their Tiananmen Square massacre of 1989, even as they strive to erase it from official memory. No one should do business with blood-stained murderers. President Xi has repudiated the so-called liberalization after Mao's death. He openly harkens back to the glory days of his role model, Qin Shi Huangdi, the first Chinese sovereign emperor, and Mao Zedong, China's first communist dictator. Qing was the greatest mass murderer of his time, and Mao Zedong, the greatest mass murderer of all time. The entrepreneurs who back this Hayden enterprise have said that they see no distinction between obtaining financing from China as from anywhere else. These would-be developers may very well be well-intentioned innocents as regards the Chinese Communist Party. We, the citizens of Kootenai County, Idaho, cannot afford to be so innocent, so credulous, so naive. Under no circumstances should any initiative funded by the genocidal government of China be entertained seriously by us. We must totally decouple our economy and society from China and refuse to do business with anyone who is willing to do business with them. This is Ralph K. Ginorio, 27th July, 2022. Keep right, signing off.